Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a really fascinating, deeply ingrained Rajasthani tradition. Our headline today is Marwadi Mosar, Kaise Budle Samajik Riti Riwaj, which translates to how social customs change. We're going to take a close look at the massive socioeconomic impacts this custom carries, and more importantly, how deeply rooted cultural rules can actually be rewritten from the ground up. To do this, we're breaking down a pretty incredible case study of a farmer named Rupa Ram from a village in the Thar Desert. This isn't just his personal story, you guys. It's a literal masterclass in how one person's courage can absolutely dismantle a generational debt trap. So get ready, because we're going to look at the hard numbers, the immense cultural pressure, and the ultimate tipping point of a centuries-old tradition.
To really understand the scale of this custom, we have to start with a profound dying wish. Beta Mari Pugdi Ki Laj Rakje. Son, keep the honor of my turban. Now, out in the harsh terrain of Rajasthan, the pugdi isn't just a piece of clothing. It's the ultimate symbol of lineage, family honor, and generational pride. So picture Rubaram. He's just a simple farmer living in a small desert hamlet. When his father passed away, those final words placed an immense, almost unbearable cultural weight squarely on his shoulders. He wasn't just grieving a terrible loss. Suddenly, he was tasked with upholding his family's entire reputation in the eyes of the whole village.
Let's move right into Chapter 1, Marwadi Mosar and the Burden of False Pride.
So the Mosar is this traditional death feast that happens on the 12th day after a family member passes, where the entire village is invited to eat in honor of the deceased. But over the generations, this custom morphed from a simple communal gathering into a massive display of, well, false pride. The societal pressure here dictates that the grandeur of the feast directly shows how much the son loved and respected his departed father. And the gap between expectation and reality is just staggering. On one side, you have the village head laying out strict demands. The menu absolutely must include 5 different types of vegetables, traditional churma, and a ceremonial turban tying that costs 5,000 rupees all on its own. They basically make it clear that without the turban ceremony, the Mosar is a failure. But on the flip side, we have Rupa Ram's actual financial reality. He owns just 3 bighas of land, 1 single bull, and has exactly 200 rupees to his name. I mean, how does a guy with 200 bucks pay for a lavish feast meant for an entire village?
Which brings us directly to Chapter 2, the debt trap and the moneylender. When tradition demands money that literally does not exist, the only bridge between reality and expectation is debt. Enter the local Mahajan, or the moneylender. Rupa goes to him in absolute desperation, basically saying, look, it's a question of my father's turban, charge whatever interest you want. And you know, desperation makes for terrible financial leverage. The math here is brutal. 10%. But hold on, this isn't 10% annually. The moneylender loans Rupa the cash at a 10% monthly interest rate. Just let that sink in for a second. 10% a month is a mathematical guarantee of financial ruin. It's an inescapable vortex. But in that moment, blinded by grief and the heavy burden of judgment, Rupa accepts these catastrophic terms.
So he ends up taking out a massive 20,000 rupee loan. And with that borrowed money, he hosts the Grand Mosar. The whole village shows up, they eat this lavish meal, and they pat Rupa on the back. They tell him, wow, Rupa, you've really illuminated your father's name. For one single day, he gets the temporary praise of his peers. But in reality, he just planted a ticking time bomb on his family's survival, all just to feed the village and protect the so-called honor of the turban.
Moving on to Chapter 3, Tradition versus Education, the breaking point. Eventually, the applause fades away, and reality sets back in. We hit this profound intersection where the unyielding forces of nature and crippling debt just completely collide with a father's responsibility to the living. Fast forward just 6 months. The unforgiving climate of the Thar Desert shows zero mercy. There is no rain. The crops fail entirely. And right on cue, the moneylender shows up at Rupa's door demanding his payment. To appease this skyrocketing debt, Rupa is forced to start selling off his livelihood. First, he sells his only bull. Then, he has to sell a piece of his precious 3 bighas of land. The very foundation of his family's future is being dismantled piece by piece to pay for a single meal that happened half a year ago. And that brings us to this absolutely heart-wrenching, pivotal moment. One day, Rupa's 10-year-old daughter walks up to him and simply asks for her school fees. Rupa, completely out of funds and totally out of options, breaks down. Tears fill his eyes. He literally takes off the turban, the very symbol of honor he ruined himself to protect, holds it in his hands, and whispers to the memory of his father. He acknowledges the promise to protect the turban's honor, but asks a profound question.
क्या पगड़ी के चक्कर में बेटी की पढ़ाई बेच दूं? Did you ever say that I should sell my daughter's education for the sake of this turban? It's this powerful realization that true responsibility lies with the future, not just the past. This sparks Chapter 4, The Change Brought by One Decision. That very night, everything changed. Now, this wasn't some violent uprising, but a quiet, fiercely determined rebellion driven by one man's courage to put his daughter's future above his village's suffocating traditions. Tracing the timeline here, we start at the 12th day with the lavish feast and the empty praise. By month 6, the drought hits and assets are sold off to pay debt. But then, Ruba takes a stand. He announces to the village that from now on, any morsar in his home will consist only of simple, dull roti. He literally declares that those who truly love the departed can come eat a humble meal, and those who only want a show shouldn't bother showing up at all. For the first 2 years, the village relentlessly mocks him. They call him a miser, but he holds firm. And then the breakthrough hits. By the 3rd year, seeing his financial stability, other families in the village actually start adopting his minimalist dal roti custom. The culture actually shifts. The outcome of this perseverance is just beautiful. Today, because he stopped paying that endless interest and kept her in school, Ruparam's daughter is actually a teacher. And what about Rupa? Well, he still proudly wears that exact same old turban. But today, it doesn't carry the crushing weight of debt anymore. It carries the weight of genuine self-respect. He honored his family not by going bankrupt, but by breaking a toxic cycle. Summarizing this incredibly powerful analysis, we have a few vital takeaways from today's explainer. First off, traditions are meant to serve and unite people, not financially crush them. Second, true honor and pride are found in empowering our kids with education and ensuring family stability, not in some fleeting public display of wealth. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, cultural norms feel completely unbreakable until someone breaks them. It only takes one brave individual willing to endure the initial mockery to change the mindset of an entire village and dismantle a harmful generational trap.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on today. Think about the Mozarts in our own modern lives. You know, the extravagant weddings, the cars, the lifestyle inflation. How often do we go into crippling debt just to please people who don't pay our bills? True honor is building a sustainable future for your family, not buying the temporary applause of the crowd. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the norms, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.